Jackie. We are back here on the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show. So if I say growing pains to you, what comes to mind? Is it something you went through? Something your son, your daughter went through? How about a performance coming up at the August Wilson Center? Welcome to the show, Nathan James.
Hi, how are you doing? Good to be here.
Good to have you here. I mean, you are growing pains on stage.
Yeah. Yes, it's quite a show. It's about growing up here in Pittsburgh, growing up as a young black male in Pittsburgh and what that was like and what it's like for black men here in the city, and dealing with stress, dealing with puberty, dealing with heartbreak, how to deal with those things, dealing with influences, good and bad. Some people you should listen to, some people that you should not listen to. And peeling back the layers of what causes toxic masculinity and what causes depression, and tackling those things so that we can start getting help.
You know, the whole concept is fascinating to me because I think that as a society, we don't recognize what it means to grow up as a black male and all of the things that go along with that.
Yes, I think you're very right about that, but we're at a point right now where we are starting to tackle those things and starting to address those things, as far as street harassment, as far as misogyny and sexuality, a lot of the things that you're seeing coming out lately. And I think it's a really good idea to start to take a practical approach to those things, see what's underneath that, start to peel back those layers so that we can get to the heart of it and so that we can tell young boys that it's okay to show emotion, that it's okay to get in touch with that side of yourself that's vulnerable, that you don't have to be so tough and man up all the time, because that is what's causing this depression, that's what's causing them to act out.
I say, but that's not an easy message to get across.
No, it's not an easy message at all, because I'm having to be vulnerable in a lot of ways that wouldn't really be cool to a lot of the people who came up with me. So, you know, people coming to the show, they'll see me in some moments that they may see familiar that I did go through, but I'm also admitting some things about myself that's not popular for men to admit. And for me personally, I'm having to tap into parts of myself to where I'm still nervous about that. But I'm going to do it anyway because the conversation has to be had.
I was going to say, so theoretically, there are going to be people in this audience who will have lived through some of the things that you're doing on stage.
Yeah, they will. I mean, I'm changing names to protect everybody's privacy. So I'm not going to put anybody out there like that. I don't want to make anybody's wives mad, like, you know, this is what you used to be about. You know, I don't want to do that to them. But there will be people who will see some familiar things that they were present to witness.
Now, this is actually a production, a one-man production that you wrote.
Yes.
Talk to me about that process. Did it take a long time? How did you decide to put this, I would say, down on paper, but now I guess it's put it in the computer?
Well, I was living here in Pittsburgh. I was an actor for a while, but I also became a spoken word poet. And I started traveling around the country doing a lot of my poems, and I said to myself, well, it would be really cool if I take these poems and put stories behind them on stage. And I think at one point, living here in Pittsburgh, I wasn't being cast in roles. And I said to myself, well, you know what, if nobody's going to cast me, then I'm going to create my own role and I'm going to cast myself. And in 2005, I wrote Growing Pains, and I first put it up at the Kelly Strayhorn Theater.
Okay. And so I'm just curious now, once you started doing this one-man performance, did you start hearing from other people, hey, we want you in our production, or have you been pretty much focused on your own work now? Well,
I started hearing from other people, like they did want me in their productions. I've been focused primarily on my own work, though, because I saw after that I don't have to sit around and wait for somebody to give me work. I can create work myself. And that's also something that I would like to pass down to Pittsburgh artists here. You know, you don't have to sit back and wait for anything. You can create something. You can put it on stage yourself. You can produce it yourself. You can get your own tour going on. And so to convince people who are sitting on their couches with an idea, put it down on paper and take one day at a time. Like take maybe an hour a day to make this thing come into fruition. And someday it will happen.
So now you are performing this at the August Wilson Center this weekend.
Yes.
This weekend. And one of the things I like to explore, usually I do this when it's, well, I guess this really falls into that category too. What's the after performance conversation? When we go out for coffee, when we go out for a cocktail, whatever it is after the performance, what's the conversation?
I think the conversation would really surround why it's so hard for us to express our feelings, why it's so hard for us to express what's going on inside. Because, you know, when you really start to get inside those places in men, you know, we'll shut the conversation down really, really quickly. Why do we have to shut that conversation down? What are we afraid to tap into? And if we tap into those places, are we going to have such a breakdown that we won't be able to come back? What are we so afraid of? Why are we afraid of women? Why are we afraid of their brilliance? You know, what are those things about us that make us feel like we need to have these closed spaces with men making all the decisions? You know, what's underneath all that? And so I think really uncomfortable conversations will come of it. And I think that those conversations need to happen, and those conversations need to be uncomfortable. And I'm looking forward to going there and having those.
Now, the other thing that strikes me, when I started this segment, I was thinking in my head, this is the perfect thing for young black men, medium black men, mature black men. But the more I listen to you talk, there's food in this for women as well, because we have these perceptions and expectations of our men that may or may not be on point.
Yeah, I mean, growing up here in Pittsburgh, I found pressure from a lot of places, you know, to be this tough guy, this, you know, hyper-masculine guy. I don't care about nobody, you know, oh, I'm going to the party, mean mugging people, and it just wasn't who I was. And I think that it's a good show for women who have questions for men, specifically black men. And it's a show where you can get those questions answered. And it's also a show for young men who are dealing with the same exact things right now that I dealt with coming up, so that they can see that they're not alone. Like, there's another man who went through this. I may not fit into the status quo of my community. I may have other interests. I may have interest in doing things that people say are white, but I'm living inside of this community where I can't, you know, express that. I have to participate in trap culture, you know. So a lot of people who are maybe going through the same things, a lot of men my age who still can't admit to some of their fears, admit to some of those vulnerabilities, I'm asking them to come out, be vulnerable with me, go there with me, and let's get to the heart of what's really going on in our community.
And it's this weekend.
This weekend.
Folks should go online, trustarts.org, and get their tickets,
yes,
but they need to do that soon.
They need to do that soon.
Yeah,
because a lot of people are writing me. A lot of people are like, tickets, oh, where can I get tickets? And, you know, so I'm expecting a pretty good turnout.
You want to sell it out both nights. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on at the August Wilson Center this weekend anyway, so it's a great opportunity to take advantage of it all. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll give folks more specifics about the tickets and much more when the Lynn Hayes Freeland Show continues.